Wouldn't it be awesome if we had a manual to help us through life? Well, lucky for you, we got a podcast for it. Welcome and join us as we find out kung may prescription ba sa life as we sit down with extraordinary people who have a little more experience, life lessons, and wisdom to share to inspire all of us to be just as awesome.
Kwentuhan lang tayo from adulting, food, wellness, staying healthy, love life, to loving life and everything else in between.
We're your hosts. I'm Justin Quirino.
I'm Aaron Cristobal.
And I'm Dr. Sherry Chua. Thanks for being here with us today.
Samahan nyo kami as we talk about life to find the answer to the question kung may prescription nga ba sa life? Real talk to. Let's get started. Question, guys. Hi.
Oh, yes, Aaron.
Very curious.
Hello.
Because I have a list of names that I want to say out loud. And I just want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind when you hear these names.
Okay,
So
sure.
let's say Henry C., Manny
SM.
Villar, Enrique Razon.
Okay.
What comes to mind when I say these?
Successful businessman. That's it.
Oh.
That's it. That's done.
Oh,
Yes.
very
Good
very
answer.
Yes,
Good
teacher.
answer, Justin.
wow. Well, you know what? These were actually names of some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the Philippines this year.
Oh.
And one
Wow.
thing they all have in common
Yes.
is their unmatched success. So, one last question for you guys, just out of the blue, just thought about it. Who is one successful person that you look up to and why?
It's interesting that you asked me that, Aaron, no? Kasi when I think about this, parang ang dami talaga eh. I mean,
Yeah.
Jim Guzman, obviously, diba?
Okay.
Aaron Cristobal, Dr.
Yes.
Sherry Chua,
Ooh.
MD, no? But, what I like to refer to Matthew McConaughey
Mm.
in his speech when he said that the person he looks up to is himself in the next 10 years.
That's beautiful.
Wow.
Yes. And then when he gets to that 10-year mark, they ask him, oh, siya na ba?
Mhm.
Siya na ba yung dream person mo, whatever? And he's like, nah. The next 10 years, ask me that again. So it just never ends, right? There's this consistent growth that's always happening. No?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And you know what? It's so inspiring to hear you say something like that. I wanted to ask you why do you think that people succeed, especially the names that I gave you earlier? Why do you think they succeed?
I think. I'm just kidding. I think people succeed when, number one, they really work at it. You don't just work hard, but you work smart, and you need to have a vision. I think you know what I mean.
Correct.
But it also depends on your definition of success, Aaron.
Yeah.
But if you want to succeed in the business world, for example, like the people that you mentioned, what it takes there is learn the ropes, learn the industry, learn the economic factors that come into play with regard to business, learn leadership, and keep on pushing. So that's my answer, Miss Cristobal. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Doc,
Thank you
you
po.
naman.
Thank you po. Doc.
Ako, kung merong isang tao na nilolook up ko, ewan ko ha, pero ako, for me, si Ramon Ang. Kasi kahit, alam nyo, sobrang successful niya ngayon, di ba? Pero kahit successful siya, marami siyang natutulungan na tao at nagagawa talaga para sa country natin. Kaya, sobrang believe din ako sa kanya kasi kahit, alam ko na lahat ng kung ano man yung meron siya na achieve niya ngayon and kung gaano siya ka-successful, galing ito lahat sa hard work and perseverance talaga.
I love that. And you know what? I noticed also that people are able to succeed in life because they follow something called the gold standard, and even became the gold standard in their own industries, diba? Especially in the business world. Like, oh, okay. When you think about certain things, sometimes the top three names that I told you comes to mind. So they became the gold standard in their own industries also.
Pero, question is, ano ba talaga yung gold standard na yan, no? Is it like that trend on social media where you follow a CEO's morning routine, you gotta wake up at 5 a.m., meditate, etc.? Ganun ba yan, Aaron?
I don't know if there's an exact formula for it, but I can say that this gold standard is a popular term that's used best to describe the best quality and ideal that you can hold yourself to. So, according to Google, the official definition of a gold standard is when something or someone is the best, the most reliable, or the most prestigious kind of thing of its type.
And that's our episode for today. How do we strive to be the best at home, at work, or even in our community? Bakit kailangan natin ng gold standard? Can ordinary citizens achieve this type of success and even incorporate this into our behaviors, habits, or actions?
I think it's high time that we introduce our special guest for today, and I'm pretty sure he can help us with our topic about going for the gold. He's actually the gold standard himself. Wow. A cook, food entrepreneur, husband, and father.
Ladies and gentlemen, the founder of the Fat Kid Inside Studios and Feature Media, none other than Erwan Heussaff!
Yay!
So much energy. I love it. What's up, guys?
For you, bro, for you, because you sound so good. Remember, Erwan? Okay, that's your trademark, especially for podcasts. Welcome to the show, Erwan.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
Good. Just a regular Tuesday in our daily grind, but everything's going well so far. How about you guys?
Doing well, but
Pretty
I
chill.
actually am very curious about a normal Tuesday. What does a
Yes.
normal Tuesday for Erwan Heussaff
It's
look
absolute
like?
chaos every
Chaos?
day.
Mhm.
And then my job is to try to navigate it. But I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. And so yeah, just everything from family life to work, to my second family. So I always call the people that work here at the Fat Kid Inside Studios my Dahlia's unofficial siblings. It's always pure chaos, but I'm in love with it.
I
Wow.
love that. What does that entail? Like owning a studio, what are the tasks that you have to do on a regular day?
So much. I mean, so we function as a quote unquote traditional film or production studio, but the massive difference is we're the only production studio locally that also has a publishing arm. So we're constantly juggling,
Yeah.
client work, but also all the organic content that we have to post. We're currently running 12 long form videos a month. So that's like anything from 15 minutes to 45 minutes. And then we run a short a day on feature. So we're pushing close to about 50 pieces of content a month total.
Wow.
And that's video content. And then on top of that, you add all our client projects, which
Oh
we
my
don't consider
gosh.
as ours, right? So it's a video machine. So it's jumping in and out of client calls and talking to staff and working with the team and all that. But yeah, it's fun. We grew the team. So it used to be all just me, but now we're 23 and we're a pretty solid bunch.
That's crazy. What time does your day
Dude.
start with all that stuff happening?
So I recently found this out. By recently, I mean earlier this year. I cannot I can't wake up late. It's impossible for me. So I used to sleep 5-hour nights because I
Okay.
would go to bed at around 1 a.m. and my body clock would just wake me up at 6 a.m. And this is something that even in my 20s, when I was like drinking and partying, exact same thing. I could come
6
home at
a.m.
4 in the morning. I would get up at 6 a.m.
No.
And so I realized my body probably processes melatonin much quicker. And so instead of saying, right, I'm going to sleep in, I'm just going to sleep earlier. And I found out that I have a superpower where I can easily fall asleep at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m.
Seriously.
So that's what I do now. So I'm awake naturally at 4:30 in the morning. Yes, I know.
There's no sun.
I know.
There's no sun.
But I usually go to bed at the same time as Dahlia, which is like 8:30 or 9.
Wow.
Wow.
So at least I get my
But
full 7-8 hours, right?
but what time do you start work?
So I like 4:30 because it is absolute peace and quiet, unless I have clients that are currently ongoing in the US or Europe. 4:30 in the morning is
Wow.
0 messages, 0 calls, 0 emails. So I actually from 4:30 to around 5:15, usually I go through emails already. So that
Wow.
when I get to the office
Interesting.
eventually around 8 or 9, my day is like fully, it's a blank slate basically.
Wow.
So
I
I
was
make
about to
sure,
say that that was pretty much a Casey Neistat answer. You know, like he's also a family man. He runs all this media and stuff like that. He wakes up around 4:30, 4:30 or 5, so that he can get an hour or two of creative work in. But I guess for you, interestingly enough, you start your day with emails. You do
yeah,
like the clerical stuff first to leave space for your creativity the rest of the day. Is that correct?
I do anything I don't want to do basically. So
Ah,
if you
Wow.
force yourself to do that at 4:30, the kid's not awake yet, the wife's not awake yet, the team's not awake yet, at least I can get that done fairly quickly, like
Wow.
all the mundane stuff. And then so that when I do start quote unquote officially my day,
Yeah.
I can start with a clean slate, and that's
Wow.
where I can be creative without having to think about everything else.
It's got to feel
so
amazing.
that's your routine every day?
Yeah, so up at 4:30. So I do that till 5:15 usually. By 5:30, 5:45, I head out to the gym. I'm at the gym by 6. I'm usually in there till 7:30. I go back home at 7:30, have breakfast with my daughter, bring her to school at 8:20, beeline to the office. I'm here by 9.
Woo.
Yeah.
And
That's
what time do you leave the
But
office every day?
but more importantly, if I don't feel like doing any of that, I don't do it. I end up playing Call of Duty on my phone. So
Oh.
I don't force myself either. Like I only do it when I feel like really primed for it. Which is
Mm.
most of the time. But if I'm having an off day, if I'm having an off day, I'm not also too hard on myself. And then to answer your question, Justin, I try to be home. I try to leave the office at 4:30 just to beat traffic.
Yeah.
So that way, when I get home around 5, I still have an hour where I can basically work from the home office,
Yeah.
finish everything up, and then spend time with my daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. If you
Wow.
were to travel through the rush hour traffic, that'd be quite the commute for you, bro.
And it's just unproductive, right? And I hate just
Yeah.
kind of sitting there, nothing to do. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
could listen to podcasts and stuff like that, but I like actively doing something. So for me, like in the
Gotcha.
car, I feel like that's lost minutes.
Yeah. But man, Erwan, again, thank you so much for being here with us today. Especially in the field of like content creation, like and delegating and forming teams. And honestly, there's so much to learn from Erwan. And like Erwan's the kind of guy also. He's a content creator himself, but he's also a salesman. He pitches to clients. Like a big part of Erwan's thing is if he has an idea, why make it myself? This is perfect for this brand. I'll go to this
Mhm.
brand. And why don't we do this together? Sakto, may budget na yun, di ba?
Mhm.
Like Erwan really works smart, and like I have to give you mad props always because creativity, you're there. Management, you're there. Like, how do you
Very
juggle
hands-on.
everything?
Mhm.
That's crazy. I mean, you grew your food career pa, di ba, and expanded it into the
Mhm.
content creation, the Fat Kid Inside food blog, Fat Kid Inside Studio, and now Feature Media, and also the James Beard Award. Congratulations, bro.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And for those of you who don't know, the James Beard Award, it's, well, the James Beard Foundation. It's a foundation that celebrates cooks, restaurateurs, authors, and journalists who demonstrate talent and outstanding leadership. And you won under the social media account category. Amazing. Now, after everything that you're doing, how does it feel to have won this award?
A lot of people would see it as kind of like a culmination of things. I just see it as a stepping stone. I've never been one to kind of like tap myself on the back too much. And
We'll do that
so
for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
it just shows me that it's kind of like the step in a right direction. And to see that we've gotten international recognition for the work that we're putting out is really motivating. And when I was there receiving the awards, I was the only person who was not based in the US.
Whoa.
And I wasn't a barong, and I was like, oh my God. And I'm the only one that
Wow.
flew 20 plus hours to be there. I'm like, if I don't win, I'm gonna look like an idiot. Like I look desperate to
Oh my
win.
gosh.
And then when I got it, it was just kind of like, it was really great. It just kind of showcased our work to everyone and people to take notice, right? And we have obviously grander aspirations for the company. So it really just puts our name in certain discussions, which is great.
And you've come so far, do you still remember anything about your first food venture, first restaurant, or your struggles in the beginning? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I always tell anyone I talk to, especially younger generations or anyone that I'm onboarding in the team for the first time, the first couple of years of my life were actually in a corporate setting. And for me, that was kind of like the most important thing to do. A lot of people tend to think that you have to do what you love from the start, but love is nothing without structure. And so if you don't learn that structure beforehand, that responsibility, that respect for the work, the respect for teammates and things like that, you're not going to get anywhere. So my first ventures were odd jobs, so dishwashing, aircon repairman.
No
I did
way.
absolutely everything, and from
Wow.
China to Vietnam, and then went back to Paris for university. Then after that, I went to Bangkok, worked 6 months at a large hospital chain where I was taking care of all the food that was going into the rooms of the patients. And then after that, that same company sent me to Russia, where I was there for 2 years and came back to the Philippines, worked corporate for about 2 to 3 years before setting up my first restaurant. And when I set up my first restaurant, I was still working corporate because I still didn't kind of believe in myself or the skills. And it wasn't a wholly owned restaurant. I had partners, obviously, for that. And it was very much in my early 20s. I ended up opening 10 restaurants.
Oh.
It was very much an ego-driven thing where you think, all your ideas are absolutely genius and you're going to conquer the world. And
Mm.
there was a very, very rude awakening after that journey. But yeah, after a while I was doing the restaurants, that's when I realized that there was an actually bigger opportunity in content. And I was already producing that content for fun online. But in the
Mm.
same time, I also started marketing the restaurants through content. So I was like, how do we put all that together? That's when kind of like the Fat Kid Inside idea came about.
Whew. And what was it? 10 restaurants in your 20s?
Yeah. Yeah. Ridiculous. So it's like
One per year. Why
400,
not?
400 employees,
Woo.
Wow.
frontline dealing with all the issues. I don't know if you've managed teams in the Philippines, but a lot of time
Uh-huh.
their familial issues become your issues and
Mm.
dealing with all that. And I remember I wouldn't say I was depressed or anything like that, because in Russia I grew very, very thick skin, like
Ah.
Mm.
because it was very difficult there. So nothing really got me down, but it was very toxic. Like I had to work 12 to 18-hour days most days,
Whoa.
and just I have a personality that needs to keep doing new things. So even though I was fully
Mm.
slammed, I kept taking on more work and more work and more work. So yeah,
Wow.
30s, hopefully a bit wiser, late 30s, might I add.
So, Erwan, please share with us what does it take to get to this level of success?
I think it's respect for the process. I think not jumping the gun. I think not feeling like we deserve anything or that we expect anything. Whatever it is that you want to achieve, you yourself have to go out there and get it. Nothing's going to fall into your lap. And it used to frustrate a lot of people when I said this, because obviously I have a quite a privileged background, but both my parents came from nothing. My dad was a sailor in the Navy because his family couldn't afford school. And so I always kind of grew up with that. My dad as a kind of like, not necessarily very vocal balance board, but he was a man that kind of lived through his actions. And just by
Mm.
seeing that and seeing the hard work and dedication that he had, it set the standard for me in terms of what I needed to kind of follow and what kind of man I needed to become. And
Wow.
so, yes, life is unfair for most people, right? Everyone starts from somewhere. And then the next question is, what are you going to do about it, right? And if you
Mm.
look at in your circle, regardless of what, economical class that you're part of, you know someone who's successful, and spend time with that person and understand how they became successful and what did they do to pull themselves up. I mean, you look at Pacquiao, you look at, there's so many rag to riches stories in the Philippines, right?
Mm.
So at the end of the day, it's really looking at those examples and seeing how they did it and understanding how they did it.
Mm. And we know that you love food, right? And you also encountered some challenges with regard to health and weight in the past, right? So that's where the Fat Kid Inside name comes from, right? How are you able to overcome these challenges?
I think it's about, when I was talking about weight loss, or when I lost my weight in 2000, Jesus,
Kailan?
2007, in 2007.
Mm.
So I was 20. Yeah, I was 20. And so I lost, I think I was 40 kilos in a span of 6 months. And back then it was all very much diet based. So it was
Okay.
like Atkins, South
Oh.
Beach. Those are kind of like the big
Yeah,
names.
it's pretty
Yeah,
Atkins.
Uso
Yeah.
before.
Uso, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so kind of followed those. And then you realize that at the end of the day, especially with weight loss, this probably applies to everything. There's no one solution that fits everybody, right? Every body, physical body is different. You process food differently. You're allergic to certain foods that other people aren't. Some people require higher calories than you. Some people don't require as much calories. And, I was in Europe where I have a lot of friends. And even now, if I look at like my brother-in-law or something like that, they can eat 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day and not gain any weight, right? And I was always someone from a very young age, if I just surpass a little bit my calorie intake, immediately I see a difference physically.
Oof.
And so just over the years, just kind of finding what that balance looks like for me. And then just applying that and trying to stick to it. Like it is a little, ironic. I love to eat, but I'm also
Yeah.
very careful with what I
Yeah.
eat. But what's really easy for me, and that shocks a lot of people, I can eat, I can fast for 48 hours without batting
Wow.
an eye. Like for me,
Whoa.
it's so easy to not eat.
48
Wow.
hours.
Yeah, easy. I
Just
start
water.
feeling just water. I start feeling hungry maybe after 72 hours, and I've done a few longer fasts before. And it's just a way of eating that's really worked for me. I'm not saying to be anorexic, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just find that what balances out for you. If you want to eat 3 meals a day and just, reduce the portions that you want to eat 3 times a day and eat really cleanly, then that's up to you. What I usually do, because I'm never hungry in the morning, so I'll usually naturally eat my first meal around 2 p.m. and then I'll have another one at 6 p.m. And those are usually clean, right? It's usually protein and veg because that's what works for my body. But if I know I'm going to have, if I'm going to be traveling, or if I'm going to have a really big meal, or if I'm going to have a couple of bottles of wine with my friends, then I'll just make sure not to eat for like 24 hours leading up to that. Because I know during that dinner, I'm going to ingest 4,000, 5,000 calories, right? So it's all right.
Wow.
Wow.
That is an insane amount of discipline to know that,
Oh.
right? Like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna eat because tomorrow we're gonna
Yeah.
drink.
Sometimes um our physical health really hinders us from doing the things that we want,
Fasting.
right? Whether that's fasting for extended periods of time, whether that's building your dream body or whatever it is, right? And for you, Erwan, all the work that you've done to get to your desired physical health, not just for weight loss, but even to fight like cold symptoms, for example. We're pretty sure just looking at you, you know what I mean? Like you use only the best of the best for Erwan Heussaff. So
Yeah.
for if we're talking colds, right? Because when you have a cold, you're out for a while, especially if you have to like record voiceovers and stuff like that. You're not gonna sound very good. You know what I mean? So what do you use for your cold symptoms fighting purposes?
So my body hates me. Um, like I put it through immense stress. I get lots of like allergies to things like if you give me a shirt that's been in the closet for 2 years and you make me wear it, it's the most
No.
hilarious thing because I'll just start sneezing,
Itching.
getting hives, getting itchy, and everything
Mm.
like that. And because I run such a tight schedule where I'm like, all right, wake up, gym, no warm up, cold shower, back to the house, back in an aircon car, back in the office, always on my feet. Like I get colds a lot, and they really do annoy me. I'm the type of person like how I don't know if you've heard about this term, but they call it the man flu.
Okay.
So apparently, when men, scientifically proven, apparently when men get the flu, the symptoms are heavier or something. It's like worse. I don't know how real this is, but I remember if I had like even with my wife or even friends that are women before, when I have the flu, I just feel I can't do anything. Like I can't concentrate. I can't be on my phone or anything like that. Whereas them, they're like, stop, that's just the baby man flu or something like that. They would say that to me. But yeah, so I am someone that gets colds, headaches. I get a running nose. I actually have one right now. Running nose all the time, and it just happens. So I definitely take Decalgen, and it just kind of helps me get through my day. There's no kind of like, that there's no drowsiness or anything that comes with it. So it's really something that for me in my active lifestyle is absolutely perfect. And it's not even something I have to kind of think about. It's just when I start feeling these things, just nip it in the butt,
Yeah.
take a tablet and get on with your day and kind of just keep that level where you're at your most active.
Yeah. On that note, kung meron tayong the gold standard, like Erwan,
Yeah.
meron naman tayong tinatawag na the cold standard. The
Wow.
most powerful Decalgen. Powerful relief for the symptoms of colds and sinusitis. While aiming to be the best in your different roles in life, kakailanganin mo ng katuwang sa buhay at pinalevel up na gamot gaya ng Decalgen. So, Doc,
Wow.
what are the medical benefits here?
So this medicine is used for the relief of clogged nose, runny nose, postnasal drip, itchy and watery eyes, sneezing, headache, body aches, and fever associated with common cold, allergic rhinitis, sinusitis, flu, and other respiratory tract infections.
Kailangan ko yan. Yes. So, Decalgen helps with all of that. Ganyan ang alagang Unilab. Thank you, Unilab, for making this podcast. Ito din, ito mismo ang alagang Unilab. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Well, you mentioned your dad earlier on. Would you say that your dad is your gold standard for what a man should be?
I think in like in terms of how he lived his life, definitely. Like he lived his life. I mean, he's a person that's very opinionated, very French,
Okay.
very kind of like not too vocal. But I definitely learned just by being in his presence. And the type of people that he dealt with, the type of people that he surrounded himself with. I learned, basically through experience from that. So definitely he was one of the gold standards that kind of set things up for me. But if I'm talking about my personal gold standard, it's always been myself. And people know this about me. I am zero bullshit. Like, I don't know if it's a Capricorn thing, but I'm not disrespectful. I'm never mean. I'm never negative, but I'm very truthful to a point where sometimes my friends tell me, hey, maybe add some fluff to that before you say something. Because
Cushion
I'm the
it
type
a bit.
Yeah. So even my wife tells me that sometimes, like, cushion your opinions a little bit. But I'm someone that's a very straight black and white shooter, right? So and I'm like that with myself. Like I'm hardest with myself. So that would be kind of my gold standard, is really just I am constantly looking at a mirror. And most people, they don't want to do this, but I constantly confront myself every day. Like what you just said or what you just did, does that represent who you are? Was that your best? Was that how you wanted to say it? I'm very much in my head like that. So sometimes
Sounds like you're pretty hard on yourself,
I am
man.
very hard on myself. Yeah. It's a trait. I don't know, the Myers-Briggs thing. It was what was it? INF. I'm an INFPJ, something like that. And when I read it, I was like, oh, that's exactly me. Where I'll have a conversation, say with you, Aaron, today, and then 3 days from now, I'm going to repeat that conversation in my mind. And I'll be like, oh no, why did I say that? It would be completely misconstrued or anything like that. So I continuously learn from previous experiences, right? So yeah, I am hard on myself.
That's crazy. Does it get you down, or do you just use it as like, this is my motivation
It's
to
my
be
fuel.
better?
Yeah, it doesn't get me down at all. I think it just kind of just I'm so used to failing that it doesn't affect me anymore. It's more on how do you build on top of this and how do you learn from this, right? There are very
Wow.
few things that will get me down and sad, and most of those will kind of be maybe more in family things. If my daughter's sick or someone in my family is sick, then yeah, I'll get sad. But anything else that I can't control, I don't let it affect me, because I know at the end of the day it was out of my control. So instead of reacting to it, just observe it and learn from it, right?
But do you have any advice for people who want to apply this in themselves? Like, for example, what are things that I personally need to work on? What are characteristics that you believe are important in a person so that they can cultivate whatever they need to be successful in life?
Gold standard characteristics,
Yeah.
Aaron, if we could, yes.
Yeah, I'd say the highest gold standard characteristic for me is self-respect. And with self-respect comes the fact that you shouldn't lie to yourself, right? They say if you lie 4 times, it becomes a reality. And a lot of times people don't want to confront their reality, right? There's a ton of victimizing. Like, I can't do this because I'm in this particular situation, or I was born here, or I don't have enough cash, or there's just, if you look for excuses, if you look for reasons and different opinions of why you can't do something, there's going to be tons of them. So instead of all of that, really take the time to sit down with yourself and say, okay, am I bullshitting myself? Am I lying to myself right now? And that's why I said self-respect is key, because you wouldn't lie to someone you really respect, right? And it might be hard for a lot of people to confront these things, but once you do, it's so cathartic. Like, it really just releases all this pent up emotion. And then once you've kind of assessed that, you can really move on and start working on an action plan on how you move forward from there.
Wow, so after saying that, I was reminded of you talking to yourself in the mirror, confronting yourself every day, right?
You're a sexy man. That's
You're a sexy man.
Those are the affirmations you can do.
You got to say it 4 times for it to be true.
Yes.
And so is there a way that you record this stuff as well? Like, do you have a mindfulness practice like journaling? Because I mean, definitely, you can repeat that stuff to yourself in the mirror every day. That would work too, I suppose. But do you have a way of documenting, I guess, these little notes to yourself to get better?
So I used to write quite a bit when the Fat Kid Inside was a blog in the beginning. Now I kind of I still write mostly for voiceovers when we do our videos, and I usually kind of use those experiences and plug them into the voiceovers. But I've always been, I mean, I have a fairly good memory, so I've always been someone that I don't necessarily need to journal it or write it down or anything like that, but I'll have to prove it to myself within that day. Because, I mean, you'll be surprised but how much you can change in a day as long as you stick to it, right? So if I do realize that there's something wrong or I'm doing something wrong, I'll think of what do I do today to actually, take a proactive step towards fixing that. And usually that just helps keeping yourself accountable as well.
Love it. And so when you finally follow all these habits, and you get to this next milestone, do you celebrate these milestones? Like, how do you celebrate your success when you've reached a certain goal in your life?
Time off.
Time off?
Yeah. So
okay.
Previously it was just traveling. So Anna and I would travel quite a bit. And we got really lucky with Dahlia, where she's just such a trooper. And so she enjoys it as well. And so that's kind of like our thing is we usually try to balance our workout as much as possible. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes it's not. Work-life balance in the Philippines is always a bit trickier than in Western countries, because our escape is not as close by. So if you want to take a trip out or anything, there's always some sort of logistical thing that needs to be taken care of. It's a 3-hour car ride or something like that. Whereas, in other countries where there are parks, you can just go to the park. So what we do is really just try to accomplish as much as possible within a few months. And then we take a trip outside of the country altogether, to kind of just, relax a little bit.
Relax.
Is it difficult to achieve, this gold standard status, or to go for the gold in different aspects of your life? Like, is that something that comes naturally to you, or is that something that's difficult? Like us mere mortals over here.
I think it's just something you need to work out every day, right? It's not, I wouldn't say, okay, you've achieved your gold standards, okay, you're done. It's a trophy you can hang on your office. I don't see it like that. I see it as something that at any time can slip if you allow it to, right? So it's something that consciously, day in, day out, you kind of work towards. It's very easy for values to slip, right? So as long as you keep yourself accountable, it's okay. So that's why every day for me, I kind of approach every day as a new challenge, a new set of challenges, and really having what we call here a BHAG, or a North Star, a big, hairy, audacious goal, right?
Yeah.
Something that will always keep you accountable, that you're working towards.
Love it. But bringing it back to Erwan, you're a successful businessman, foodie, cook, and you're also a husband to, one of the most popular Filipina actresses and hosts of all time, Ann Curtis, and of course you got Dahlia. How do you effectively juggle your priorities in life, which are your family and work, and your second family in the Fat Kid Inside Studios?
I think one doesn't survive without the other, right? So it's understanding that symbiotic relationship on how do you grow and nurture your family, but in the same time grow and nurture your career without losing sight of either. At the end of the day, like family is number one. Like they're so cute. And it's like if anything happens there, you know, if I'm in a shoot or whatever, I would go straight to that, right? So it is my first priority out of everything. But it's really important also to not lose yourself in parenthood, and making sure that you keep your personality intact and, you know, still are the person that your wife or your spouse kind of fell in love with. And ultimately you can become something that, you know, your daughter or your kids would be proud of. Because, you know, this as a new parent, this kind of runs through your head all the time. I'm like, what if I just quit everything and just travel with her? And I'm like, cool, but we'll run out of money at one point. And then Dahlia's going to be like, yeah, my dad's kind of a deadbeat. He doesn't do anything. Because eventually she will grow up, right?
Yeah.
So the way I've kind of like worked it out in my head is that I do know for the first, I don't know, 6, 7 years of her life were her absolute world. So it's just being as present as possible during those first years. Because right now, you know, I am her best friend, which is pretty cool, but I know that's going to change really quickly. And so just taking advantage of that by trying to be as balanced as possible. And then anything that would take me away from them for too long, I probably won't do at this point. But it's something that I might revisit, you know, 6, 7 years from now. And I think especially when you set up your own company, you know, it's easy to think that if there's an opportunity that you need to take it right away. But I found, again, because of, you know, my inflated ego in my 20s, I found that maybe a couple of years of just patiently waiting and assessing can actually be really beneficial for all parties.
Yeah, there's seasons in life, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. And things change all the time, but in your recent years, especially as a new father, are there any gold standard habits that you do on a daily basis that you feel are helping you become better as a husband or as a father?
I set a hard cutoff in my head. Obviously, I break it sometimes, but again, I'm not too hard on myself. But if I used to be the type of person, I'd go home and then keep working.
Mm.
And then my day would only stop when I was like almost passing out on my computer. But now, if if I'm in the same room or in the same vicinity as Dahlia, there's no way I'm going to get work done.
Oh.
Impossible. Like she sticks to me like a post-it. And it's the cutest thing. And so it's just, even if I try to work, she's going to sit down on my lap. She's going to start typing on my computer.
Oh.
And that's just her way of saying, I think it's time for you to kind of notice me and maybe spend time with me. And so when I am home now, I am truly physically, mentally home, right? Whereas before it was more like, yeah, I'm here physically, but my head is somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I really do make sure, like my gold standard would be, especially when you're with your family, it's presence. I know some people are not as lucky as we are in terms of being with your family all the time. You know, different people have different, you know, life setups, whether they're separated or if they're OFWs and they live abroad and everything like that. And presence doesn't have to be physical. It's just something that you show your kids, because they're actually smarter than we think. You show them that you care, that you're always there no matter what. And so with Dahlia, it's really that. It's just making sure that she knows no matter what, and like I'm her rock, whatever she needs, I'm there, right? And so yeah, so I think that's kind of like what I've learned from parenthood, is just being able to dedicate yourself to someone wholly.
I love that. All right. So actually a lot of our listeners are possibly not yet parents or haven't reached the level of success that they want to achieve. And I know that you are still growing, but we can all agree that you have reached a certain level of success. And I'm sure a lot of people want to know how you did that. So if you could give us like top 5 tips or rituals of success to achieve your gold standards, whether if it's habits, attitudes, or mindsets, what is something that you can share with us and the listeners?
Well, that's tough. I think the number one, like I said a while ago, is develop self-respect. Live your life the way you want other people to perceive how you live your life, right? So you're not living a lie. You're basically living a congruent reality, and putting that together and making sure you're always working towards that. The second one would be don't be late. And that's including for yourself, right? Show up. Like if you have something to do, if you have a job to do or a project to do, just show up. Don't be 80% there. Don't be 70% there. And if you can't be 100%, then maybe call in sick and say, you know what, today's not the day. Even with yourself, check in with yourself. Be like, you know what, today I'm just going to play Call of Duty, because whatever I do, it's not going to amount to anything, right? But when you do decide to show up, show up. Third is develop patience. We're a generation where we're subjected to an influx of so much information online that we tend to live this kind of, warped reality of how life works. We are constantly seeing success on our social media feeds, and we're constantly asking ourselves, why am I not there yet?
Yeah.
It's so important to remember. And this is something I learned from my father. He was only quote unquote financially stable, successful in his mid 40s, right? Or early 40s. So imagine he went into the Navy at 16. From 16 to 45, that man was hustling. And then made it eventually, right? So it's really important once you're out of college. It's not like, oh, how do I get the job that I want or that I love or that I'm passionate about? All that's cool, but I always tell people you need to learn life first before you can jump into your passion, right? Because if you go into your passion with zero experience, it's going to be a very, very hard road ahead. So that was 3, right? Yeah.
Yes.
4. Four would be just don't lie to yourself and don't lie to people. Just live an honest life. I think that's really important. And then the last one would be don't be afraid to take that first step. I think a lot of people are paralyzed by the thought of taking the first step. There's a whole book about it called 0 to 1, if anyone's interested in reading it. And a lot of times, it's that first step that's absolutely terrifying because you don't know what's going to happen. If you start, you can't stop. So it's kind of like, do I want to throw myself into this endeavor? And I mean, I'm living proof that try something, it'll fail eventually, but just try it. And if you don't get the lesson once, do it 10 times. And so, just take that first step, because what's important in life, I think, is momentum. So momentum is really important, because they say, once you climb a mountain, you have to go back down. But what do you see when you're at the peak of the mountain is you see other mountains. And how do you get to those mountains is you just keep going, right? So momentum for me is kind of like the life breath in everything that we do. And I always tell that to the teams that are here with us. It's just sometimes when they fail a certain project or something that they worked on didn't do as well as they thought it would be, I always tell people, okay, just move on, like learn from it and move on. Because if you dwell on it for too long, that's when the dark thoughts creep in. That's where the insecurity creeps in. And that's where you stop doing what you love doing, right?
I love that. And you mentioned that once you are able to climb a mountain, you see other mountains, right? Because I think after we achieve one goal, it doesn't mean that we're done. We have other goals to achieve. So what are the other mountains that you see before you at this point? What else do you want to accomplish, both for you and your family?
So many. I mean, I want to retire early. That's one of the key ones. So, all the investments that I do now, not necessarily in the businesses that I run, but other businesses as well, it's all about finding passive income. What can you invest in now that generates income from month one, so that eventually you can retire and then have a monthly income that's recurring. So that's kind of like one of my main focuses with investments. In terms of, and that will affect the family, obviously. Like if I can retire when I'm 50, I'd be so happy. With work-wise, it's just such a long road ahead. With Feature specifically, we have such strong objectives and goals, and trying to shake up the media landscape locally, but also just making sure we're creating impactful, smart, entertaining videos online that try to kind of put Filipino food and Filipino culture on a pedestal, where I think it deserves to be, and making sure that it cuts through the noise of everything else that's happening on social media, right? And a lot of time when you're in social media, maybe you don't want to watch a 25-minute informative video. Maybe you don't want to learn anything, right? So it's all about navigating that. But we've seen with our videos that we can create direct impact in certain communities. We can create discussion about policy that needs to be changed, which has happened with some of our videos about salt. And at the same time, we can maybe generate more tourists to try to come to the Philippines by showcasing it properly. Maybe Filipinos that are struggling abroad, by seeing Filipino culture kind of like rising, they'll get inspired to do the same thing in their own countries. So I think we have really large objectives with feature. A concrete one that we really want to go through is there's still no proper documentary about Filipino food on every major streaming platform. So that's something we're actively pitching now, and
nice.
Hopefully it gets out there. I usually say this publicly because it just puts me in the shit and kind of like puts so much pressure on me.
Yeah.
And so it just keeps me kind of like, okay, I said it like 5 different podcasts. Now I have to do it.
Yeah.
But it's something that's we're currently in pitching stages, right? And it's not something that I would want to host or anything like that. I would want it to really be featuring kind of like our local culture and our local cooks, and really trying to define what Filipino food is. And a lot of it's being lost, and a lot of it's being forgotten, even by Filipinos who live in the Philippines, right? The most heartwarming comments that we get online is, oh, I didn't even know that existed in the country, or that existed in the Philippines. And we're a country with 7,700 plus islands, right? We're how do you connect everyone? Because even with social media, it's not really happening. So, right, how do you connect everyone and create kind of unison and make people proud of their country and their flag? So that's one of our main goals, which, is a very long road ahead, but something we aspire to get to eventually.
Hey, and we're here to support you, bro. That's super awesome. Like everything that you listed over there. And I love that, you really have that love for the Philippines and like exploring Filipino culture. I agree with you that I think a lot of our culture is even lost on us, like I'll definitely admit there's so much more that I need to know and immerse myself in. So you can do that on feature on YouTube. Okay, check it out. But Mr. Erwan Heussaff, we actually have a couple of questions for you regarding different Filipino achievers in their own fields in a segment we aptly called Battle of the Brains. Okay, so we're gonna play a little game called Battle of the Brains. Now what's gonna happen is we're gonna test your knowledge as the gold standard. I'm gonna be listing down different achievements, and you'll have to guess the Filipino achiever that earned this. All right, so we're looking for people. All right, specifically Filipino people. Are you ready, Erwan?
Go for it.
Okay, here we go.
This could be terrible, by the way.
This might be. All right, here we go. Our very own champion in gymnastics, who just bagged a total of 5 medals. It's 3 golds, 1 silver, and 1 bronze in the 2023 edition of the Asian Championships. Who is this gymnastic champion?
Carlos something. Or EJ Obiena.
The first one, Carlos
Yulo.
Yulo is the answer we're looking for. Okay, next, the first Filipino to ever win an Olympic gold.
Heidi.
Oh, Heidi.
Heidlin. I'm very bad with names. Heidlin Diaz.
Diaz is the answer we're looking for. All right, here we go. I'm pretty sure you're going to know this name. A 3-time SEA Games gold medalist in pole vault events.
Obiena. That's his last name, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
EJ
we'll take it.
Is it EJ or OJ? EJ.
EJ Obiena. All right, here we go. Now we're going to go into the world of beauty. The first Filipina Miss Universe in 1969. I believe you know this person.
Gloria Diaz.
Yeah. Gloria Diaz. Hi, Tita Gloria. How you doing? Next, the first woman president in the Philippines was...
Cory Aquino.
Cory Aquino, also known as Corazon Aquino. You're absolutely correct. The first school in UAAP history to win a 3-peat championship. That's seasons 80, 81, and 82. What UAAP school is this?
Wait, what sport is this?
Anything. They won three-peat. Basta three-peat. I don't think any other sport has done this. That's the question for you, not for me, Erwan. No, just kidding.
Ateneo?
Ateneo de
Okay.
Manila is the answer we're looking for. Congratulations. We have one last question. First, Michelin-starred Filipino restaurant cooks. Okay, and these are what do you call this? Cook.
Kasama, Chicago.
What? What did you say? What did you say?
Kasama, the restaurant?
Kasama. Okay, yeah. That's the first Filipino restaurant based in Chicago. That's right.
Yeah.
The Gain of Michelin star, Erwan Heussaff. You are the gold standard. Congratulations, sir. And wow, thank you so much for being with us here today. We learned so much from you. Thank you so much for
Yes.
stopping by.
Thank you, Erwan.
Thank you very
Thank
much. Appreciate
you.
your time. Thank you.
At the end of every episode, we always ask, may prescription ba sa life? But for this episode, parang na-rephrase natin siya ng konti. The
Oh.
phrase is now, how can we level up to achieve your gold standard?
Wait,
So-
can you say the question? What's the question?
How
Go ahead.
can we level up to achieve your gold standard?
Wow, how do we do that? Doc Shar.
Ako, siguro para ma-achieve talaga yung gold standard, siguro dapat unang-una ma-set natin clearly ano ba yung goals natin in life, ano ba yung talagang passion natin, and ano ba talaga yung gusto natin ma-achieve. Tapos once na ma-set natin ito, dapat makapag-focus tayo sa goal na yon. Andun dapat yung commitment, dedication, discipline, hard work, and perseverance natin para talaga makuha and maging successful talaga tayo, di ba?
Yeah.
Thank you. Doc Shar for president.
Yes.
I love it.
Vote for
Ikaw
me.
naman, Justin.
Ako actually, guys, ako class president naman ako. I was taking notes when Erwan was sharing. So these are his gold standard tips. I'll just reiterate, okay, which I think ito naman talaga yung prescription natin for this episode. No? Number one is self-respect, parent, Doc Shar. To live the life you want people to think that you lead. Diba? You're so poggy on social media. Be poggy in real life. Diba?
Yes.
Diba? Oh, yeah, okay. Ito next. Don't be late and show up. Okay. Self-preach. Number 3, develop patience. Not everything happens right away. And good things come to those who wait. Number 4 is to live an honest life. And that includes being honest with yourself. And number 5 is don't be afraid to take that first step.
Yes. Beautiful.
So I agree with
Wow.
it. I'm very inspired by Erwan's words of wisdom, sagely advised today. Arian.
And of course,
Ay, yes.
we must and of course, we must also level up in the ways we take care of our health, how we give powerful relief to any symptoms of colds and sinusitis.
Sinabi mo pa, Doc Shar, no? And what better gold standard level medicine is there if not for Decolgen? Decolgen is available in Unilab's flagship stores on e-commerce such as Shopee and Lazada. Ganyan ang alagang Unilab.
Yeah, and actually, I'd
Yeah.
like to add a little bit to that. It was very inspiring hearing Erwan's daily routine because for me, that was something that I didn't know he had that much discipline in. You know what I
4:30
mean?
in the morning, right?
4:30 in the
Yeah.
morning,
4:30.
and there's a reason for it because he wants to be able to get through the mundane tasks without any interruptions. So I would say that that level of discipline is really how to achieve personally my gold standard. That's what I need a little bit more of. Akala ko disciplined na ako eh. Hindi pa pala. Kaya pa pala. There's still more
Yeah.
you can push. So I'd like to ask the listeners also to let us here know how you're going to be leveling up your own story to reach your gold standard.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
comment on our social media and stuff like that. And do listen to our next episode. Thank you so much for listening. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next episode of May Prescription ba sa Life? Real Talk Talk. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.